Yeah. All right, it's getting going now. Mm-hmm. There we go, guys. Come live. This is go to http www.zoom.us/j/7644 All right, what's up, Bujamal? Come to Zoom, everybody. Come to Zoom. Zoom is where it's at. What's up, Zets? Zetsui Riho. I don't know how to say the name. I love private emojis. Those are nice. Whoa, smoky here. Yeah. What's up? Love the cameras. Good to see perspectives. I can talk to guys. It's weird on the that's what needs to happen. I need to switch accounts. So I'm trying to post a link on the YouTube here, but it won't let me. I think it's because I was in the wrong account. And there, it now worked. Okay, good. All right. Record to computer. What's up, everybody? It's Science of Spiritual Growth. I'm your host, Yogi Chris. If you're catching this on any of the platforms, you know, the Spotify, YouTube, you want to follow, click that follow or subscribe. And then, you know, join the newsletter, whatever we got going on, the links that are in the description. You want to get involved in the community. All right. So this is Science of Spiritual Growth, a podcast based around communication. That communication is the measure. It's the measure of your spiritual advancement. It's the measure of your mental development, how you communicate. And that's going to be how people receive you. When you go places, how do people react or respond to you? Awareness of that. I'm talking about today. The title was Cause and Effect, Hacking Cause and Effect. You need to be aware of what your communication, the effects that it creates. There's what you want it to create, and there's what it actually creates. We live in this kind of imaginary world. We're trying to create our destiny. We see a vision. Where do we want to be a year from now, 5 years from now? Everybody has goals, you know, on some level. But to calibrate, you need to see the effects you're actually making. Otherwise, it's just pipe dreams. That's what, like, somebody that's on drugs that like has all these dreams, they don't see what their actions are actually causing. They get fanciful with it. They go into their imagination. I know, I had lots of those, right? So to be aware of what your voice, what your words, what your social media posting, it's so much really in your tonality. It's just really mind-boggling how much in your tonality is creating hostility or cooperation. It's creating either desired effects or not the desired effects. It's so much in your tonality. It's so much that it's beyond really just little changes. I could teach you to don't inflect up so much when you talk. When you talk, don't inflect up because it's very uncertain. You know, you want to change it up, but it's beyond that. There's this undertone almost. Besides just the inflections, there's this there's the feeling of how you've to do with, is your voice warmed up, your vocal cords, how connected are you with your voice? It's a very, that's a variable that's within your control. In a silent flute, I have all sorts of voice warm-ups, face stretches, I just taught somebody my brand newest mantra, the newest mantra that will open up your face and your palate, especially a soft palate. Your articulation will improve greatly with this mantra. And so once you get your voice, that's like not an excuse really. It's like when I wrestled, there was never an excuse when you wrestled to be out of shape. Like, don't ever lose the match because the other person was in better shape than you. There's a pavement, there's a stationary bicycle, there's a jump rope. There's no reason why you shouldn't be in better shape than the other guy. That's totally within your control. Technique, maybe, maybe he's better. So don't ever let it be that that was my biggest beef with waking up too late. In the women's yoga group, I'm emphasizing, and in the silent flute, I'm emphasizing the wake up. Wake up before you have things to do. Don't wake up for the things you have to do. That's called having to get up at a certain time. Normies have to get up at a certain time because they have things that they have to do. I got things I got to do too, but I wake up before that because I wake up for me, and I don't have to wake up for me. I choose to wake up for me. And so I get ahead of the things I have to do, and I'm warmed up for it. So before my discipline with wake up, I got into a lot of miscommunications and conflicts because I wasn't warmed up for the day. The other person may have even been more warmed up in the sense of like their body and their communication. And miscommunication came out. I couldn't find the words. I wasn't sharp or cloudy or this or that because it's early. Now that time for me is 2:33 a.m. There's my cloudiness. The world isn't even woken up yet. By 7 a.m., I'm really hitting some texts, but I've been warming up for 4 hours. So that's hacking cause and effect. The cause of so many of miscommunications was because I am and maybe you all, if you're listening to, maybe you resonate with this. What's the word? I mean, it's beyond rebellious. It's not really rebellious. It's, I'm just not like people. I'm not like other people. I set different standards for myself, individual standards that other people aren't familiar with. They're maybe higher than they're used to, or they're on different subjects than they're used to. So it's up to me. I either got to lower my standards or change them into the normie standards. Everybody's got the same standards. Talk to 100 women about relationships and you'll hear the same things of what they're seeking. There's not much unique there, but talk to me about relationships and you'll hear something very different than 99 other guys. So if I want that different standard, then I got to be willing to communicate, to output to every person in my life that new standard and to keep putting it there because the whole rest of the world is giving them different standards of being, of discipline, of accountability, of communication, of intelligence, of hostility that they're willing to accept. It's a different standard. People are willing to accept passive-aggressive communication or just aggressive communication. And so they come around you and they think you're willing to accept it. So they just reflect it onto you. And you're like, hell no. You're like, check your tone before I register your words. I don't even hear your words when you sound like that. But then you also got to have your sound in check. That's cause and effect. That's facts of the matter. How many times I got so upset at the other person's tonality that I lost my tonality. And then how much can I really point the finger? So I got to be 2 steps ahead. And that's what a leader has to be. You got to be way ahead of your followers. You want to have allies that push you. But the people that you lead, you're ahead of them. And you can't just you could be 1 step ahead of them. That's going to be difficult. Because if you ever misstep and you have to like take a step back, well, then they're ahead of you for that next, you know what I'm saying? Like you want to know a little bit more than just the next step. But you'll see that makes more sense as you lead more people. It's like he said, the top technique, you got to know how to defend it too. So once you have the top technique and you have the way to defend the top technique, then you need the next technique to defeat the defense. Then you can teach that previous technique. You got to be 2 steps ahead always, because with power comes responsibility. You teach people how to influence, how to communicate. It's, a measure of a person's spiritual growth being communication is, this word, I don't know, maybe if there'll ever be like a new word, communication. It's kind of a lame word, man. It's too long. I don't know. Maybe it's just gets played out, but there's so many facets to it. Like hypnosis could be a kind of communication. Sales would be a kind of communication. Flirtation is a kind of communication. Even silence is a form of communication. Body language, all of these things come into it. And it's like, it's a really big spectrum. It's almost like talking about light waves or electromagnetism. Electromagnetism is such a huge spectrum. Like we're talking about X-rays to gamma rays and everything in between. Radio waves to gamma waves. Communication is so much. And it's creating effects, or it's not. If it's not creating any effects, then it's bad communication. What the fuck are you communicating? It's got to make a difference. So it's creating effect. You want to see those effects. It's always creating effects. You want to be able to measure those effects. You need to have both measures at the same time. Whoa, losing my chair over here. You need to have a measure of the outside and a measure of the inside. What were you feeling like and what were you sounding like when you created that effect? You got to link them up. So like if you're doing sales or you're doing petitioning or something, you're talking to a lot of people, there needs to be an accounting of what's inside and an accounting of what's it creating. And then a gradual adjustment of oneself. And this goes back to the wake up time. If you wake up and go right into life, you could be always calibrating yourself to the effect that you want, but then you just become a mold of that thing. You lose yourself because you're so much more than what you do. But what you do is your practice, your life, your job, your relationships. These are the practices of your life. The practices that I give, like in Silent Flute or any kind of like, self-reflective, contemplative kind of practice, anything that you can reflect on yourself. And you don't want to just sit down and think about your life, at least not all the time. That's sometimes maybe you do that, but you'll just dive into an inward spiral of, supposed cause and effect, but it gets blurred with imagination. You're daydreaming. And so that's not cause and effect. You're just creating things. And it might be nonsensical. It might be off in so many different directions. You're dissipating, mental energy. So, some kind of disciplined practice, a repeated thing that you can do daily, does something to the physiology. It sets the system. It gives a background pattern or a background measuring scheme to measure your fluctuations against. You have a daily thing that you do in the morning before you wake up at the same time every day. This is monk life. And every day it becomes that measure of all of your other life choices. How did it affect your discipline? The discipline stays consistent. The life choices, then you're free. The other 18 hours of the day or whatever, 22 hours, whatever. Then you live life over gradually. You, as a good person, which you are, as a good person, you will gradually change your life as you need to, as you see fit. You'll see the cause and effect of your life. What you need is discipline. If you're getting advice from people, I can give advice, but what needs to be established first is discipline, because without that, it's an endless line of questions for advice. What do I do here? What do I do there? What do I do there? Like there's no change. There's just giving sound bites and band-aids to patch up situations. Teach a man to fish, but to do that, you got to teach a man discipline, or woman. Whoa, man. Whoa. All right. Mute yourself. Okay, that was pleasant. So, soy soldado de Jesucristo. Can anybody speak Espanol? All our daddies was gangbanging. That's interesting juxtaposition of comments. Cause and effect. This reflective practice. You want this. You got to have discipline with that. You got to do that. That's what it's going to take. And that's where you'll make leaps and bounds forward towards your goals. Is in seeing things. Now, a teacher or somebody outside of you may be able to put your awareness or put your attention on how you're being. You may not see it all the time. You're so close up to how you're being that you don't see the little insanities or the little angers, the little loss of consciousnesses that we all have, that we lose ourselves in the emotion. And the process of maturing, they didn't equip us. They did not equip us with the language and the intelligence of emotions and what to do and how to handle it. Maybe now they're doing differently. I doubt it. It's probably worse. It's more communistic now. But, we are on that evolution. So this is what we do. I could go, if I went any more into it, I think it would be heavily teaching. Are there any questions or comments from the live audience of, anything that I've said so far? We can just open this up.
Chris.
What's up? Josiah.
Yeah. So when you were talking about standards and how we sometimes have higher standards, for someone that who has lower standards, rather than them bringing you down to their standards, how do you bring them up to your standards?
Well, it's a lot like dog training. You hold to your standards, the result that you're going for, and learning how to positively reinforce when they move towards that, and how to punish, quote, punish in a way that's not like resentful or hostile, or in a way that they understand. So if you gradually train people, now then it's your job to be attractive. You have to attract them. So you keep attracting, and in their pull towards you, you can adjust their movement. If you're not attractive, then your adjustments or your corrections will repel them. So that's why, let's say early in game, you can't correct a woman's behavior at all. You're not attractive enough to her. Maybe you even have some attraction for her, but like in terms of any kind of like mating, like long-term, like you got to have that long-term attraction. If so, then let's say if it's not in a relationship, if you have other standards, the ways that we communicate our standards through stories, through indirectness. Like I heard a story about this guy and he told his business partner this, that, like, what do you think about that? So I just used a story to put my value off on something else. Like, so it's an indirect third party that like, I read a thing that like a majority of people, they prefer this. Like, what do you think about that? So I just put the weight instead of it just being me, like I want this, but you want it that way. So let's talk about it. So it's 1v1. But if I can cite some outside source, my teacher said, or my parent or whatever, somebody credible in the other person's eyes, that helps move the standards. Let's see. Them bringing you down to their standards, even bringing awareness to the difference in standards to make it known. You spell it out very clearly, pleasantly, that my standard is different, because they may have some cloudy thought that they are the same as you. And no, we're not. We're different. Because when you have higher standards than people, sometimes you should have higher standards than people most of the time on just about everything. Even your standards of being able to accept other people's difference in standards. Your standard of accepting other people have their own life to live is higher than their standard of letting you live your own life. So they'll give you problems. That doesn't mean you got to give them problems, because your standard is higher. Right? And that takes a kind of power that comes from a part of you that's independent of other people's opinions. Because there's a part of you that is dependent on other people's opinions. And that part has to continually be overridden There'll be little knee-jerk reactions because that's natural, literally nature. It would be weird if you didn't have that. But then wisdom comes in and you know, hey, their opinion doesn't really matter unless it does. And if it does, then through conversation, and the conversation, it never ends. It's endless, really. So you got to really fall in love with the conversations of your life, which is why you really need, it's selective of the people in your life. And until you have that level of people, then it's really, really, really about the numbers. You need abundance, because variety will help you be very less needy. So that doesn't get conveyed. People don't want to come to your standards if there's any sound of neediness in it. And you eradicate that with abundance of conversation, because then you become intolerant of wasteful conversation. And then they'll feel that. Now it's your job to not be, there's so much to it. And I'm just kind of going deep into the story of it. I think I kind of beat a dead horse there. Is there anything else? I think that was helpful, right?
Yes, it was. Thank you.
Right on. Try to be. If you're on Instagram, you should definitely be on Zoom. We got a bunch of people here on Zoom. YouTube, come to Zoom. Edgar Blue, what's up? Anything else, everybody?
I don't know. I just can't help but laugh sometimes.
Yeah, that's funny. That's probably good. InstaFit says, has pickup evolved since caveman times? Is that a real question? Are you still on right now? Because, I mean, Johnny Freedom Ranger, I could tell, was listening to that question. And he was like, well, literally, of course, because caveman times was how many thousands of years ago? So probably, yes, it has evolved since then. So I don't know what you're asking. Is that some sarcastic question? Like, has it evolved since 2007? The answer would also be yes. What's really the question? What are you asking? Like, what's the behavior
you want to know the most
What's
interesting
up?
thing that's happened? The most interesting thing that's happened since 2017. In like 2017, bro, I kind of blew the whistle a little bit on how much like gang activity was going on in like psychiatric wards.
Oh shit.
And, yeah. And I mean, like I said, you know what I'm saying? And then there's been two major allegiances that took place in 2017. There's the People Nation and there's the Folk Nation.
Oh, man. I don't hardly know shit about any of that. Not much about that, but that's pretty exciting, actually. We could talk more about that. I want to know more about that. Maybe not here. This might not be. That sounds kind of dangerous, actually, a little bit risky, but good for you, because it sounds like it was corrupt, really, and taking advantage of psychiatric wards. I don't know. I'm sure there's a lot of like very, very violent people that they've committed because of that or whatever, something like that. I don't even know how that really weaves into it, but whistleblower, huh? You're a renegade. You're you're like Edward Snowden of gangs in Miami.
Yeah. Many times over, actually, since like 2009.
Man, keep yourself safe. That's all I got to say about that. Keep yourself safe. Well, right on. Well, if you got anything about the topic of the podcast, that's open to it. I got a question that's typed, so I'll just answer that typed question, and then anything related to like what I was talking about, that's the best. Andrew Dawson asks, top 3 books to read, communication and relationships. Man, that's difficult to say. Like, what's mine for me? Communication and relationships. Man, really just starting anywhere. I mean, communication and relationships. I mean, there's published books. I think the notes from AZD's lectures are the best. So, the No Fucks Given notes, the Lion's Den Book of Notes, those are the best, I think. Then when it comes to like published books that you like get on Amazon or Barnes and Noble or whatever, let's see. Communication. I mean, maybe nonviolent communication by Marshall Rosenberg. It's pretty eye-opening. It's pretty mind-opening. Pretty dope. It's a pretty dope book. It'll make you kind of weak though when you communicate. It's very empathetic and just extremely accurate of emotional language. It's pretty awesome. It's a simple book, easy to read, but if you try to apply it, women especially, they'll walk all over you because I feel sad when my expectations are let down and we had an agreement on that. So would you be willing to next time, blah, blah, blah. That's like how he'll teach you to, it's like impossible to argue. It's just like, the way you say it. Then I think Mystery Method and The Game.
I'd say building rapport, RAPPORT, building a rap with females. It's really important, having a long history. So girls I went to elementary school with, middle school with, high school with, I've liked girls since the second grade, duh. And they all remember me, you know what I mean? And we all went to school in like the same, right? And then I transferred schools. And then if you've ever transferred schools and shit, like you've been all over the world, or you've been all over your city or all over the state. And people will remember you. And so you got to build a good rap sheet and know people and stuff. And I think that's something big that IMC advertises and kind of says anyways. Like, I know I hear AZD talking about, you got to be in 3 or you got to be in 4, like cliques, groups, like when you're like out with your boys, you're going to go out to a bar. Most people don't go alone. I go alone anywhere because nobody has the balls to go here around where I'm from, which is Alapata. It's like alligator country, Dominican town, all that shit. Yeah.
It's very interesting. You're in a talkative state of mind. You should do some shows. You should go live so people can hear you talk and tell your story.
Oh,
so there's another book, building rapport. I think that The Game was mind-opening, that Mystery Method's essential as an algorithm, and nonviolent communication.
Bro, you guys have it, bro. Look, I used to buy a lot of weed. This isn't marijuana. This is CBD hemp grass.
Well, brother, I mean, this is not really. This is actually a show, so it's funny because this is going to be on the recording. But anything on topic, we can't get too far off topic like that.
Yeah, I just meant that in my city, it's legal to have recreational medical marijuana.
Where are you? Oh, there you are. I don't even see your camera anymore. Where'd you go? I don't see it anymore. Yeah. Well, brother, if there's anything related to the show or anything I talked about, that's welcome. And I think that's about it. Is there anything going on YouTube? Let's see. Still Edgar Blue. All right, guys. Well, I appreciate it. Appreciate you all showing up. Hope that was valuable for you. Communication and seeing how what you're saying, when you're saying it, how that's affecting your world, how the presence you bring to the moment, that's going to, it's going to be a huge variable that when you're in a situation or you're in a communication, it's difficult to work on your beingness in that moment. It's really who arrived to the moment. It's what you can adjust and correct in the moment, but it's amazing that you'll see when the time is, when it's pressing, when there's something urgent, you'll see how out of phase you were. You were not tuned into your beingness. And the more you can be in communication with your environment, with people in your environment, people in your circle, the more communication you're actively in dialogue throughout your day, the less that you'll be able to kind of slack on that vibe. Because when you do, the words and the communication that comes out of you will disrupt the flow. It'll disrupt the energy. It'll disrupt the relationships. You'll see the disruptiveness that it causes to not be on vibe with yourself. And there's no one to blame but yourself. It's totally within your control. We allow ourselves to slip out of vibe by going antisocial, by not connecting or being in communication with the world. And so when we go back into it, we don't realize what we've manifested in our mind, what we've been thinking about. It's going to come out in our sound, in our face. So the more dialogue you can be in with the world, even if you're not around people, like when I water the lawn, this sounds funny, but when I talk to the grass, like as I'm watering it, there's a communication with the water because I just stay in communication with my environment. So you want to be like almost top of mind. That's why we have lockdown in the evening, the phase 2, because there's a separation between the engagement with the world, and then the time that I take for healing and self-preservation, right? This is what I'm teaching the women's group too. So for more on that, you can come to Beast Camp. There's a Beast Camp this month here at the Temple. Go to ninthlimb.com to see all that. That's the number 9, THLIMB. And subscribe to this show, the newsletter. So much to go on. You really want to get involved with this because this is a movement. We're redefining spirituality. It's not self-sacrificial. This is a way to bring up humanity through intelligence, not through just reclusiveness or a kind of a philosophy of zero worth, that we're all equal. There's nothing unique about me. I have uniqueness, but my value is the same. It doesn't make sense. It's nonsensical pseudo spirituality. So we're red pilling that. And that's where we're going with this. So thanks everybody. I'll see you next time. Os.